Welcome to the Kevin Bass Show long form podcast. If you have an idea that you take from this podcast that you want to apply to your own life, you should always talk to your doctor before doing so and never construe anything you hear as medical advice. And with that, enjoy the Kevin Bass Show. What's up, guys? Here I want to talk about PR Lotion, the supplement product promoted by the company Momentous, who currently and recently formed a partnership with Huberman Lab. As you can see here, Momentous announces a multi-year partnership with the Huberman Lab podcast and Dr. Andrew Huberman as a scientific advisor. Leading neuroscientist joins high-performance company to grow product portfolio and continue and promote continued innovation. Okay, so after I learned about this press release, I was interested in what Momentous did, and that's how I stumbled upon PR Lotion, its flagship product, PR Lotion. And here, if you just do a Google search for PR Lotion, you see, "Welcome to Momentous, the home of PR Lotion." That's from an ad on Google. And then you can also see the description. It says PR Lotion unlocks the natural electrolyte bicarb. It's going to be sodium bicarb, the same thing as baking soda. Natural electrolyte bicarb to help you make training gains, performance nutrition products to optimize your active life. Number one selling in pro sports, trusted by top performers, formulated with top minds, types running, cycling, marathons. And here you can see in Living Momentous, the first search results. The description says, PR Lotion is the only training tool that effectively delivers game-changing bicarb to the muscle, unlocking incredible power and endurance gains. So I decided to go look into this. Does PR Lotion do what they claim it does? The first things I decided to do is I looked at their Learn section. You can click on the Learn section, go to Product Education. And then there are a couple. There are a couple on the second page blog entries, one called Results from PR Lotion Study at the University of Oregon, and one called UConn shows how PR Lotion keeps you hydrated in heat and humidity from University of Connecticut. So let's go to those. We'll first go to the UConn one. It says, UConn study shows how PR Lotion keeps you hydrated in heat and humidity. It says, you may be aware that PR Lotion helps keep you going for longer and harder, for longer during training, and reduces next day soreness. So I clicked on the link to find, what I should be aware of. 404, page not found. Okay. Clicked on the next link. 404, page not found. Okay, well, page not found. Then I clicked on, I looked for Robert Huggins. That's actually a link to his Twitter page, University of Connecticut Corey Stringer Institute. It's actually just a link to the institute. So there's actually no link to this study about better hydration from PR Lotion. There's literally no link at all to the study anywhere on the page. Okay. And I looked for this on the internet. I couldn't find anything on the internet. I couldn't find anything. Just this press release about the study about PR Lotion released by Momentous. Well, that's interesting. If it's a study that shows really profound effects of PR Lotion, then it should be available online or on PubMed or somewhere in some journal, but it's actually not, which suggests that the results aren't what they're purported to be on the website, most likely. Because if, the results were very strong, then it would get published in a peer-reviewed journal. It suggests that the results are not strong. Okay, fine. Well, maybe it's not that study that's going to show us anything, but maybe this other study, results from the PR Lotion study at the University of Oregon. I'm going to click on that study. And again, a press release with no with 0 references. There's this one footnote here. Okay, cool. So I'm going to click on that. And it's going to take me to the bottom. This John Halliwell, effectiveness of transcutaneous delivery by proprietary cream for human performance, University of Oregon Department of Human Physiology, 2021. Okay, well, if I go Google that title, I can't find anything about it on the internet. So the conclusion is that this increases your buffering capacity. It says the Oregon and Yukon studies have broken new ground, demonstrate the efficacy of transdermal sodium bicarbonate solution via PR lotion, which eliminates the GI issues associated with oral bicarb intake. Okay. So whether you're an athlete, blah, 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 PR lotion can become an integral part of your high performance routine. Okay, well, that's nice. Well, let's look at some other links on this press release. 404, page not found. Okay, so I was starting to wonder, why is it that, here, let's look at another one. 404, page not found. So why is it that none of the links work to actually show the results of the study? And again, the study says, it reduced acidity, serum pH was increased, more serum sodium. So it suggested there was an absorption of the PR lotion, suggesting that it worked, right? The idea is that the PR lotion, by replacing sodium bicarbonate, oral sodium bicarbonate, and you put it on the skin instead of ingesting it, you can absorb it through the skin. If you can show that you absorb it through the skin by showing a reduction in acidity and an increase in sodium in the blood, then you're showing it's actually being absorbed through the skin. Okay, but why is it that I can't find any of the results online for any of these studies? Why is it that no matter where I look, I just click on a link and it's 404, nothing shows up? So I went to check out, I Googled and I found this page by Peter Attia, this blog post published in March 2022. And he said in this post, he says, I recently received a link to a blog post. Okay, this blog post, let's look at blog post. 404, page not found. Okay. With such gobstopping results that I must admit my initial reaction was, this seems too good to be true. The title of the study is PR Lotion Significantly Improves High Intensity Interval Performance. Specifically, the study found more than a 20% improvement in high intensity interval training to exhaustion in a study of competitive cyclists. So, coming on the heels of a clinical trial by San Diego State Mark Kern. Okay, let's click on the study link. 404, page not found. Basically, PR Lotion is awesome. But of course, 404, page not found, right? That's interesting. So what Peter does is he basically breaks down the studies that are no longer to be found anywhere after his post. And again, this is in March of this year. So that's interesting. He breaks down the studies and he basically, let's just cut to the chase. He basically says these studies are harking. Another more maybe assertive term would be p-hacking. So you take many different findings from the study. Some of them by statistical chance are likely to be statistically significant. So you just take those findings and then you blow those up and put those on presentation posters, on blog posts, et cetera. And so basically his blog post, Peter's blog post, is about how essentially these studies were essentially p-hacking the data to show a result that was probably strictly due to chance, showing a benefit to these supplements, to PR Lotion. So this is why when you look at the links, I believe this is when you look at the links, everything's gone now. You can't find any of these studies anymore, probably because of Peter's post. So Peter basically eviscerated the PR Lotion, and now you can no longer find the studies. So I thought, okay, fine. is there anything that works here? Is there any link that works here? Blog post, nothing, right? Just like 4.4, nothing works, but there are 2 links that work. So on ResearchGate, I'm assuming these can't be taken down. On ResearchGate, there are some poster presentations. There's 2 related poster presentations, and this is what he picks apart. They basically present a couple results from certain time points and only certain outcomes that showed statistically significant improvement compared to placebo. But if you measure, 50, 100 different things, you're going to get some of those. So that's what Peter's point was. If you only see 2 outcomes, you don't see all the data, then it's essentially p-hacked, right? And you see that for most of the both of the posters. That's the basic idea. Now, again, that's a very crude way of putting it. Maybe someone would say this is a pretty inflammatory way. I would say it's a kind of an inflammatory way. But look, if this is all that it's turned out to be, Momentous is PR Lotion. If it's all that it's turned out to be, then these poster presentations from May 2018 and from, let's see if I know when this one's published. Both were put in May 2018. Okay, they're both put up on May 2018. This is now September 2022, 4 years later, 4.5 years later. Both of these papers would have been published. This research would have been published. In fact, there's now research from San Diego State, from University of Connecticut, from University of Oregon, right? Nothing's published. And the blog posts announcing the publication or the conduct of these trials are now removed. So it really makes you wonder what happened here. And is this legitimate research? It's kind of like I say, like, p-hacking might be the right word to use because nobody's going to publish this. Is that the reason why? Because of p-hacking? But it just so turns out that there was a paper published by a group out of Australia, not funded by Momentous. They did an independent study. They said topical sodium bicarbonate, no improvement in blood buffering capacity or exercise performance. And what they did is they used PR Lotion, right? They used PR Lotion and they compared it to oral bicarbonate, sodium bicarbonate, which has been shown again and again to improve performance. It just has some gastrointestinal effects in a small minority of people. So they had 2 experimental trials for study A. There's 2 studies, study A and B. For study A, there's 2 trials. So 2 studies, 2 trials in study A. Study A and study B, 2 trials in study A. Oral bicarbonate, or PR Lotion, applied 90 minutes prior to a cycling task to exhaustion. And they looked at lactate, and then they looked at that on a time course. And then in study B, so the 2 trials were, everybody did either oral bicarbonate or PR Lotion. So they did both of those, 1 trial for each. Everybody in the study did 1 trial for each. So they did the oral bicarbonate 90-minute trial, and then they did the PR Lotion 90-minute trial. Okay, so that's the 2 trials. Study B, they had 10 cyclists, triathletes, 2 trials. And then they applied either PR Lotion or placebo 30 minutes prior to a cycling performance task. Okay, and they looked at capillary blood samples. So the results in study A, pH bicarbonate were significantly elevated from baseline after 10 minutes of the oral sodium bicarbonate. As expected, as you take oral sodium bicarbonate, it raises your pH bicarbonate levels. It increases the buffering capacity of the blood, which reduces the acidity, which makes the performance better. Okay, and there was no elevation in the PR Lotion condition, meaning no elevation of either bicarbonate or pH, meaning it didn't increase the blood buffering capacity, meaning it wasn't absorbed into the skin systemically. PR Lotion wasn't. There's no difference in cycling time between PR Lotion and the sodium bicarbonate. This may have had something to do with, although it looks like the bicarbonate had a non-statistically significant increase in cycling time, so time to exhaustion, so better result, but it wasn't statistically significant. It's quite a small difference. It's probably because you just didn't have enough participants. It's only 10 participants, okay? So it's not enough participants to detect a difference. But in general, we know from the other research, there tends to be a difference in performance from sodium bicarbonate. It's like a well-established fact. It's just it wasn't detected in this study because there weren't enough people. Okay, but then they look at study B, and again, there's no difference in blood parameters, mean power or peak power between the conditions. And so the conclusion is that PR Lotion was ineffective at altering blood buffering capacity or enhancing performance in either trained or untrained individuals. And you guys can look at some of the figures if you want. As I point out, here's the title. You can find this on ResearchGate, so it's hard to get on through PubMed or through the website because the website has a paywall, and a lot of universities aren't able to get through the paywall. I'm not, but it's on ResearchGate. The PDF is for free on ResearchGate, so you can get it there. You can find here very clearly, you see the graphs, the bicarbonate, and I believe this is study A. Bicarbonate, you see an increase in bicarbonate in the oral bicarbonate group, but then just nothing, no change from baseline. And then you have the exercise, and both of them drop, but bicarbonate drops more in the PR Lotion group than in the oral bicarbonate group, which shows that oral bicarbonate is superior for blood buffering capacity than PR Lotion. PR Lotion probably doesn't have an effect on blood buffering capacity. Okay. Same goes for pH. So you get an increase in pH in the bicarbonate, oral bicarbonate group, but then no increase in the PR Lotion group, same as baseline, and a much larger drop in the bicarbonate, in the pH in the PR Lotion group, showing, in other words, that there's no buffering capacity of PR Lotion. It's not absorbed systemically. Same goes for blood lactate. Actually, it's pretty similar. There's slightly higher blood lactate in the oral bicarbonate group, which actually makes sense because if lactate is acidic, then your body can tolerate more lactate. Your body can tolerate more lactate whenever you have more basic blood. So this sort of supports a performance-enhancing effect, potentially. At least it's consistent with the mechanistic understanding of how blood lactate and lactate with respect to training should increase on oral bicarbonate versus PR Lotion. If PR Lotion is not systemically absorbed and it doesn't improve buffering capacity, it's perfectly consistent in the mechanistic data. No difference as pointed out within cumulative cycling time, but again, the cumulative cycling time was slightly higher in the oral bicarbonate group, which is consistent with the hypothesis and the idea that oral bicarbonate is absorbed, whereas PR Lotion is not. There was slightly more, I'm not sure if anything was statistically significant, but there was slightly more gastric distress, like GI distress, gastrointestinal distress on the oral bicarbonate, which is, again, the downside of oral bicarbonate, which you tend to get a little bit more GI distress. I've used it. I've never gotten GI distress, but a small minority of people do. And there's no difference in power or peak power between placebo and PR Lotion. Okay, there's no difference. So there's just a difference from the Wingate in this specific trial design. You can see here the pH, bicarbonate, and lactate concentrations, very clear. So let's look at practical applications, there's robust evidence in the literature suggests that when carefully planned, oral bicarbonate supplementation between 0.2 and 0.4 grams per kilogram body weight can improve athletic performance by 2 to 3%. So that's good. The current investigation failed to observe any changes in blood buffering capacity resulting from topical sodium bicarbonate, that is the PR lotion application, in a concentration equivalent to 0.3 grams per kilogram body weight. So what we would expect to improve athletic performance. And there's no ergogenic effect on performance. It wasn't evident. Given these observations, we advise that oral ingestion rather than topical application of sodium bicarbonate remains the preferred supplementation method for increasing blood buffering capacity and potentially improving performance tests, 1 to 7 minutes in duration. So it sounds very good for jiu-jitsu, actually. So our matches are between 4 and 6 minutes usually, and and a match in ADCC would be 10 minutes. I believe IBJJF is 10 minutes as well at the black belt level. So it seems like something for me to look into for getting a 2 to 3% increase in performance. I'll be 2 to 3% better. Might make a difference at the highest level at the if things are neck and neck, and hopefully they're not that close. So yeah, that's cool. I might actually start the oral bicarbonate, sodium bicarbonate, eating that baking soda or drinking it in water before a match, maybe 30 minutes before. But yeah, it looks like it doesn't help. I mean, the topical doesn't help. The PR lotion doesn't help. So I won't be using that. I'll be using oral sodium bicarbonate and not the topical PR lotion. And it says, accordingly, and given the recognized GI issues that accompany the use of this supplement, athletes should aim to individualize their supplementation protocol in an attempt to maximize the ergogenic effect while minimizing GI discomfort. In other words, before you actually use this for training, or not for training, for a competition, you should use it during training. Before you use it during training, you should just use it during your everyday life and try to see if it affects, like, so maybe you have a weekend off and you want to test it during that weekend. If you have no distress, no GI distress whatsoever, then test it on a training day, then do it many training days. Make sure you're really accustomed to it. I'd say like 10 to 20, at least 20 training days. Like, make sure you really are completely fine with it. Then on competition day, you can use it. And then you should tweak the amount that you take. So if 0.4 is too much, 0.4 grams per kilogram is too much for your GI distress, then you can go down to 0.3 and then maybe even down to 0.2 and still see some benefit. And play around with that on your training days as opposed to your competition day. Don't use it for the first time on your competition day. That's what it's saying. In a nutshell, that's the practical application that a sports person would recommend. However, as with any dietary supplement, consultation with a sports nutrition professional is strongly advised prior to inclusion in an athlete's nutrition plan. And I advise the same. Talk to a sports nutritionist. But if you're just a recreational person, according to the literature, something like this is something you could try. It's not something that I would advise until you talk to a sports nutrition person. So don't do it unless you talk to a sports nutrition person. Talk to a sports nutrition person first. And certainly don't ingest more than 0.4 grams per kilograms. And I would also say it would make sense. It would make sense to start at 0.2. And if you have any medical issues or anything like that, then don't touch it. And then talk to your doctor, talk to a sports nutritionist first. Okay. Conclusions. In both studies, we found no evidence for PR lotion to improve blood buffering capacity or enhance exercise performance, suggesting that sodium bicarbonate has limited transdermal absorption capacity into the wider circulation. As such, a greater understanding of the proposed mechanisms by which sodium bicarbonate is thought to cross the skin barrier is required before PR lotion can be considered as a viable alternative to oral sodium bicarbonate ingestion. So there's no good evidence for PR lotion. You should try oral sodium bicarbonate. If you use PR lotion instead of oral sodium bicarbonate, you might be foregoing a competitive advantage that you would otherwise have if you actually used oral bicarbonate instead of PR lotion. Other people, including our competitors, might be using oral bicarbonate and not PR lotion. They might have an advantage over you because PR lotion hasn't been shown to work. It doesn't improve the blood buffering capacity, and it seems to have no effect on sports and race performance. It seems that when Peter published this post, possibly the PR Lotion people took down their data, all their stuff. Again, you go to the white paper, summary results from white paper. You go to his post, summary results from white paper. Again, page not found 404. Okay. So that's my take on it. Personally, I think this new paper, and he mentioned this in parentheses, it shows it's ineffective at altering buffering capacity. I think this paper showing it's ineffective at altering buffering capacity shows that the proposed mechanism by which PR Lotion should work, the proposed mechanism, it doesn't exist. So if it works through some other mechanism besides being absorbed as sodium bicarbonate, which I'm not sure what that would be since it is topical sodium bicarbonate, right? If it's not absorbed into the blood, it can't possibly work as an alternative to oral sodium bicarbonate through that mechanism. So I don't know what mechanism it would be if it's not getting absorbed. That's sort of like my take on it. So I don't really care what. In some ways, I think for this, mechanistic plausibility is really important because we don't have any good clinical data showing an improvement in performance. We have some cherry-picked data, some p-hacked data. We have some negative data, actually, for this 2020 trial showing that there's no improvement in performance. And actually, there's maybe a slight statistically insignificant improvement in performance in the oral bicarb, but not in the PR Lotion group. And in that context of not having any good clinical trial data showing clearly that there's any performance benefit, looking at the mechanism showing that the mechanism doesn't hold up either, I think is actually pretty informative. So that's where I'm actually gonna come down on this particular topic. And I think it's pretty telling that they took down all the studies off the website, they took down all the press releases, the white paper, all that stuff. It's pretty telling. I would be pretty cautious about this supplement and about claims made by this company about this supplement. With that is my review of PR Lotion, all the available literature online. My look at the science, clear, blunt. I hope it was useful for you guys. If it saved you money, if you find that you're not using PR Lotion because of this particular podcast episode, it might be useful to send a donation because, PR Lotion is pretty expensive. Let's look at it. It's pretty expensive at, it's like $55 for a starter kit, $89 for a level up kit. And then there's like a buy 4, get 1 free, almost $200. So you can spend hundreds of dollars on this stuff. And so if you could just send a donation, if I helped you to decide not to buy it, you could send a donation to me to thank me and end up spending less money with some of that money that you would have otherwise spent. You become a Patreon subscriber. You could also just send a direct donation. I don't know, $20, $50. The starter kit is $55, so maybe $50 would be good. $25 would be fine. $20 would be good. So that would be cool if you could do that. And and I hope you guys, my long-term subscribers, like this. I hope people in general find this useful. Peace. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please check me out on patreon.com at Kevin and Bass, where you can donate and make this podcast possible. Also check me out on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, where you can find my latest thoughts on the latest controversies and findings within health science. Also check me out at The Kevin Bass Show, both on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. I hope this podcast was useful to you. If it was, please leave me a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. See you guys in the next episode.